records are not open. Okay, so I was starting to get in a little bit of information. So when I was connecting my heart chakra with yours, definitely felt kind of a symmetry there. You have kind of a purplish, bluish auric field, so that does tell me you're definitely from Arcturus, so I think your previous Akashic reader was correct. However, I don't get Patola, I get Petra as the planet of origins, okay, so Arcturus, okay, and Petra, okay, so the difference between Patola and Petra, there's not a huge difference, except that the Arcturians on Petra were much taller. So the Patolan Arcturians were the kind of the smaller, more classical Arcturian beings. You're more of the taller variety, but the energy is pretty much the same. The features are very similar. There's not much of a difference between the two planets, other than Petra was mostly oriented towards healing. Okay, so Patola was more ambassadorial, communications, a little bit more technical maybe. Petra was very healing oriented. So I'm not surprised to hear that you're very connected with all these spiritual modalities out of the Eastern cultures. And you said you were connected with the Shaolin and the yoga, the Korean yoga thing. We'll go more into that as we get into your Earth lives, but I do get that you were pretty much a healer, okay, early on in your Arcturian iteration, okay, so you worked with the crystal healing pods that were in the large crystal healing temples. So both Petra and Patola, they were looking after the Stargate. So Arcturus is the home of the Stargate where souls would pass through, okay, and a lot of people don't realize this, but Bodes, the constellation that Arcturus is located in, is actually located right next to Draco. Okay, so this is where the dragon connection comes in. Okay, so so what happened in Arcturian history, which a lot of people don't realize, is that Arcturus too got attacked by Draco. Okay, but there's different caste systems in the Draconian hierarchy. So it's not just, so the attacks weren't coming from the higher rung Draconians, who were the dragons. Okay, so the dragons were kind of neutral. They didn't have any involvement with the attacks on Lyra and Arcturus. It was the warrior caste Draconians, more the, I guess, classical reptilian types that you see in popular ufology, that were responsible for the attacks. Most of the higher level dragon beings and reptilians tend to be feminine. Okay, they tend to have female energy. So even the dragons, a lot of them are female. Okay, especially the bigger dragons, the ones that are a little bit more magical, that have kind of that, I don't know what you call it, they have like this very ethereal quality to them, are feminine dragons. What I get with, I guess, your involvement or how you got involved with the dragons, in Patola and Petra, so these are two planets associated with Arcturus, they would take turns manning the Stargate. So we were all cross-trained, so we were all like, okay, we all had to work the Stargate, so we all had to process the souls through the Stargate, all these souls that were, going through death, going through their next iteration or their next incarnation. But we also did the technical work, so a lot of us, Arcturian starseeds, were quite technical. We know technology, Okay, maybe it's not our great love. Maybe we don't necessarily want to be. Although I do get some Arcturian starseeds that love to working with computers and stuff like that, but most of us love healing and spirituality. Okay, um, so I think you were working the Stargate. I've seen you did some technical work. This was part of your cross training. Okay, so even though you were predominantly a healer, you had to kind of do your stint learning, working with the Stargate. This was around the time when the warrior caste reptilians decided they wanted to overtake the Stargate. So they wanted to attack Arcturus, take over the Stargate, so they could have control of the souls. They wanted to use the souls to feed off of, and also to use as slaves. Okay, so that was their whole purpose of attacking Arcturus. However, unlike Lyra, we were prepared. Okay, so we had adequate technology. We actually had excellent technology, and we were quite prepared. We figured they were coming, so we were able to withstand their attacks. However, Draconians have massive star fleets. I mean, we might have beautiful starships. I mean, beautiful, very advanced starships, but they had larger numbers. So we were starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. So we were starting to feel like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? Are we going to be able to blast through these attacks? The ships just keep coming. There were massive Death Star-looking ships. So I think you and a small group of, I think, individuals that were working the Stargate. There was a group, whatever the group of workers or your colleagues that were working the Stargate, decided to reach out to the dragons. Okay, so you decided that, hey, we need some reinforcements, and obviously we weren't going to call on Lyra because Lyra was already decimated. Okay, so we reached out to the dragons, and so these memories that you're having of these dragon beings, it was you calling them in to help support, I guess, to provide some defensive support for the Stargate. Okay, and this is my first time seeing this in the record, so I think this is really cool. So I'm learning something along with you. Okay, so I didn't know that the dragons were called in, but so I kind of see that in these soul memories that you're having telepathic communication with the dragons. Okay, so you're feeling this great connection with them. You kind of developed a relationship with some of these beings where, because you were the one communicating with them quite a bit, you feel very, very connected with them. You feel this kind of, they're not your soul family, but they feel like soul family. Okay, because you've had this long-standing relationship with these dragon beings. Okay, so thanks to the Arcturian resistance and thanks to the dragon assistance, the Arcturus Stargate was able to withstand the Draconian attacks, and we were able to maintain the Stargate. Okay, so but it was a hard time for Arcturians. I mean, we weren't sure if we were going to survive those attacks, because it was just endless. I mean, the ships just kept coming in. Okay, I think the scene where you saw the kind of the temple that was burning, and then the dragon was kind of flying overhead. That was on Arcturus. That was near the Stargate. Okay, so that was not a scene from Earth. It was actually a scene from one of the planets in Arcturus. So that was a very, very old soul memory that you had. Now you've had constant connections with the dragons, even on planet Earth. So you've had a very long-standing, even though I wouldn't say you're of dragon blood or dragon, you're not of that lineage, but you've had this long-standing relationship with dragons, okay, throughout not just your off-world lives, but also through your on-planet lives, because dragons were visiting Earth for thousands of years. Dragons were some of the great teachers in Southeast Asia, so Southeast Asian people consider dragons lucky because they consider them benevolent, because they were their teachers. Okay, they taught them a lot of things. Now, in some other parts of the planet, they thought dragons were villains. I don't know, like maybe in the UK or something, they were always kind of villainizing the dragons, but actually they were neutral beings. They didn't really side with the good or the bad. They just kind of had their own agenda. I would say overall their energy is more good. I would say they're probably more benevolent, but they're not going to just be going out of their way to help anybody unless they feel like it's beneficial for them or beneficial overall. So dragons are kind of have their own agenda. Okay, so it's not one that might necessarily be our agenda or what we're into, but they kind of have their own thing going on, and they're very private beings, so they're not going to share, why they do things or why they choose to help out or why they choose not to help out. They have their own, kind of, I guess, their own decisions that they make, so is this resonating so far? Is this making sense, or feels okay? Makes sense. Okay. So so I think because you got involved with you were partially responsible for saving the Stargate. Okay, so you were partially involved with that. I would say you and the group of people or group of Arcturian beings you worked with. You were highly decorated or highly, I guess, recognized, and you were asked to get involved with other galactic projects. Is what I'm seeing. So after the whole Arcturus attack, Arcturus was okay again. You decided that you were going to, you got assigned to work with Vega, and then you got assigned to Sirius, and then you were involved with some of the Orion projects, and then you were appointed to the Andromeda Council, so you were in Andromeda for a while. So you have a long-standing history of getting involved with big galactic projects as part of the Arcturian branch of the Galactic Federation. You were on board starships. You ended up assisting the Vega system. I think this was probably maybe before the dragon attacked. So I think because I'm seeing the dragon attack happened after Lyra and Vega were destroyed. So I think that was your initial first assignment was Vega, and basically you were just there as a spiritual teacher. Okay, so you weren't involved with any technological involvement. Okay, it was just predominantly teaching spirituality. in Sirius. Um, Actually, it's interesting. You say you're connected with yoga. Okay. Yeah. So yoga is a modality that was developed in Vega and Sirius. Okay. So those were two star systems you were very involved with. Okay. So you're not from Vega. You're not from Sirius, but you were heavily involved with those civilizations. Okay. Um, So you're drawn to yoga because it's very familiar to you. You've worked with it for millennia. Okay. The Ayurvedic principles, a lot of the Vedic lines of thought came out of Vega, and you feel in alignment with that because it was, I think, part of what you were teaching the Vega people in the very beginning. Okay, so were these Arcturian concepts? Partially. Okay, partially it was, but a lot of it was developed in Vega and Sirius. So I consider them more Vegan, um, you know, thoughts of spirituality. Okay, um, so you had lifetimes where I think part of the mission that you were doing when you were in Sirius, which is really interesting, I haven't seen this before. You didn't work the tech fields, okay? You know, you're just like, no, no, that was not your thing, okay? That was not your thing, okay? Now you were exposed to technology in Arcturus, but your main focus was always spirituality, okay? Now, the Syrian concern after the wars was that they were concerned for survival because they saw what happened to Lyra and Vega. A lot of them were refugees from the wars. They were trying to build up their technology. But Syrians were very spiritual people, you know, so they were always focused on spirituality. They always wanted to do things from a spiritual perspective. So this is really interesting. Part of what you were doing in Sirius as an Arcturian teacher was that you were teaching the Syrians how to integrate self-defense with spirituality. Okay. Um, this was like really like a novel concept because nobody was doing this, okay? But the Syrians were concerned about protecting themselves. You know, they were like, you know what? We want to learn how to protect ourselves because we don't want to be sitting ducks for the Draconians because we've all been there. We've all been attacked by them, you know. Um, and the other thing I'm seeing too is some of these techniques you had learned from the dragons. Okay, so this is really interesting stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of like I'm learning along with you because this is all stuff I haven't seen. So the dragons were teaching you some of these defense techniques, and you were teaching them to the Syrians. Okay, and so you were involved with the Syrian mystery schools, and so that's what you were teaching in these schools. And so you were a master even long before this lifetime. Okay, so you've been a spiritual master for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, many thousands of years. So I'm I'm kind of seeing that your your spiritually infused defense practices. So these were the precursors to karate, Shaolin, kung fu, all of this stuff. Okay, so it became very popular in Sirius, and so it was so popular that when the Syrians decided to get involved with assisting the Orion people in the Belt Stars, you were asked to accompany the Syrians to teach this new form of self-defense to the Orion Belt Star people. So these were the people that were the resistance fighters. They were fighting against the Empire. So it's kind of funny. You've always been kind of in the realm of resisting the reptilian overlords, okay? But these were the the warrior caste reptilians. However, you've always had an alignment. You've always had a friendship with the dragons. Okay, so this has always been, part of who you are, part of what you brought to the table. Okay, so you had some very interesting lives in Orion where you were working with the Black League resistance fighters. These were the folks that were the freedom fighters in the Orion Belt Stars who were resisting the Empire. Okay, so you were assisting them and Arcturians, for as a rule, we're not aggressive fighters. We're not like, hey, we're fighting for the sake of fighting, but we do believe in defending ourselves. Okay, Arcturian starships are the best in the galaxy. We have wonderful weaponry systems because if anybody ever tried to attack us, we'll just blast them out of the sky. Okay, because we're not going to open ourselves to be destroyed or attacked. So it's kind of interesting that you taught this method of self-defense because it's very much in alignment with Arcturian philosophy. Okay, that we should be able to know how to fight in order to defend ourselves. So not necessarily that you were supporting the war effort. You certainly weren't supporting that, but you were wanting to be of service. And help the Orion people be able to defend themselves against these attacks from the Draconian outposts in Orion. Okay, so this brings us to your appointment to the Andromeda Council. Okay, so because you did such a great job in Sirius and Orion, you were appointed to be a representative, an Arcturian representative for the Andromeda Council. So the Arcturian Council is kind of like the UN of the galaxy. So there was, even though it was based out of Andromeda, there was representatives from many different systems. And so you decided that, I got appointed. This is a great honor. I can't turn this down. So I'm going to get involved with this. And so you spent time in Andromeda. Okay. You learned energy healing from Andromeda. Okay. So there was things in Andromeda that you learned from the Andromedans, and the Andromedans also learned from you. Okay. But it was. But I think the reason why you got involved with the Earth Project was because of your connection with the Andromeda Council. The Andromeda Council had a big meeting in Andromeda one time. I remember this meeting. I don't know why I remember it, but I do. But I think that's why I'm here too. But so the meeting was about the evolution of the galaxy. And we were looking at Orion. So Orion was like, okay, we're getting Orion shifted to the light. Okay. And we were also looking at Earth. Okay, so Earth. So we're looking at some of these systems that weren't very evolved. Okay. And we were thinking, you know what? If we volunteer to be there, it's not that we're really infringing on their free will. We're just going to go and support the planet. Okay, we're going to help shift them, help push their evolution a little bit, help shift them to, a higher state of consciousness. Okay, so you volunteered to be here. I volunteered to be here. We all volunteered to be here. Okay, so all of us are here doing this Earth mission. Okay, and I kind of get with you that your mission is big. Okay, so and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're going to stay in Puerto Rico. I don't know. You might. I don't get that you're going to stay in Puerto Rico. Okay, I think you're going to either go to the States or go someplace. Okay, but I think what you're going to take, I think some of these concepts of these Vedic content, the yoga, the the Shaolin teachings, and you're going to develop your own modality where you're going to empower people with this ancient spiritual knowledge. Okay, so I don't know if that resonates. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do get that you're going to take it's going to be a combination of karate, kung fu, yoga. I mean, but it's going to be very spiritually oriented because a lot of Earth people are very disempowered. Okay, there's a lot of Earth people that they're very disconnected from their physical bodies. They're very disconnected from their auric fields. They're disconnected from everything. Okay, so I get with you that part of your mission with developing this new kind of spiritual self-defense kind of teaching, kind of like what you were doing in Orion, what you were doing in Sirius, is helping to empower Earth people to connect with their divinity through reconnecting their physical bodies, their emotions, their mental capacities. So getting that self mastery. So and this is where the dragon energy is going to come in. Okay, it was no accident you were born on the year of the dragon. Okay, you chose that. Um, my sister was born the same year as you. She was also born year of the dragon. She's a Cancer, you're a Pisces, so you're both water signs. I do get a fair number of Pisceans that are Arcturian starseeds. Seems like Scorpios and Pisceans, or Pisces people, are usually, because you're highly spiritual, so there's that, highly spiritual component to it. So that's how you ended up on Earth. Okay, so you're very connected with Lemuria. Okay, so your first initial incarnations were in Lemuria, and I do think you had some incarnations in Europe, but most of your incarnations were in the Pacific Rim. So it was in the Asian countries. Okay, so most of your past lives, because of your deep Lemurian connections, Lemuria, it was founded by Arcturians and Andromedans, and you have an Andromedan connection through the Andromeda Council. Okay, so it was natural that you would choose to be in Lemuria because it was a highly spiritual civilization. It was the only civilization that we ever had that was in fifth dimension. So it was fifth dimensional. Okay. Your mission ever since Lemuria fell was to try to bring Lemuria back to Earth. Try to bring that fifth dimensional reality back to Earth. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So that's been part of your mission. Okay. Part of how you're going to work with people, you're going to take these concepts that you've been studying for years and creating this modality where people are going to start feeling empowered. They're going to start feeling connected to divinity. It's going to be like a mystery school, okay? Like kind of like you're going to create like this this practice where it's not just going to be about fighting and self-defense, although that'll be part of it, but it'll be about empowering people, empowering them to take control over their emotions, take control over their mental thoughts, taking control over their connection to divinity, okay, and their physical bodies, okay. I think a lot of us Arcturians, the reason why we suffer from physical issues while we're here on Earth is because, and I've gone through my own long physical journey, healing journey, okay, is that we, a lot of us are so high vibrational that we're not a really good DNA match for our physical Earth bodies. Okay, so it's almost like we have these big souls that are trying to anchor into this body, and we're struggling to do that. So then it kind of manifests as physical issues. When we do the Akashic clearing, I do want to help you work through some of those physical issues. I think you said there was left hip, right shoulder.
Yeah, I told you everything. Actually, the shoulder, something I think is maybe due to an old wound.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that some of those were wounds from past lives. Yeah.
Wars or whatever.
Yeah, I'm picking up in Vega, you got involved with the wars in Vega. In Orion, you got involved with the wars in Orion. Like you weren't supporting the war effort, but you were assisting, the Black League resistance fighters. And there was also wars here on Earth too. So, yeah, so there was, I too was involved with wars in my past lives. I had past lives as a man in some of my past lives, and I got involved. That's why I ended up in the military in this lifetime, because it was like I was trying to clear out some karma around, being in those wars, but I kind of get the same thing with you. I'm seeing wars in China, wars in ancient Korea. I mean, I'm just seeing Japan. I don't know. I'm just kind of seeing a lot of connections with the Far East, a lot of connections with Southeast Asia. Yeah. Almost more so than your current genetics, which is Hispanic, but you have more connections with the Eastern cultures than you do the Western cultures. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah. 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 So, you have a really interesting soul journey. I mean, I really love your story. I mean, because it's unlike any other story I've seen where, I mean, just how you got involved with the dragons and how you got involved with teaching these martial arts to these different groups of star beings, across the galaxy, and then how you got involved with the Andromeda Council. That's pretty amazing stuff. And then just your Lemurian connections. In Lemuria, you were teaching it was kind of like physical fitness, but with a spiritual, kind of very similar to yoga. Okay, it was kind of using our physical bodies to connect with the divine, to connect with the higher realms. It didn't really have the martial arts component to it, but it did have kind of the very similar to yoga. Okay. Now, are you a yoga instructor in Puerto Rico? Do you do anything like that, or?
No, I practice Kriya yoga. I was initiated.
Yeah.
Meetings of Babaji, Sirius, my guru it already passed. I've been practicing for 23, 24 years, but I'm not empowered to teach.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it is what the Vedas says in the original yoga. It's not postures. There is few postures. It's more going into deep states of meditation. Right? But I don't teach. I teach Tai Chi Chuan, which is exists an internal martial art, which Qigong, which is the art of energy.
Mm.
I am a Qigong leader. My teacher is Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
My teacher is fourth generation direct descendant from the Shaolin monastery.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's why I have this deep connection. And actually, he wants me to become the guardian of the method
Mm-hmm.
of the highest Shaolin art,
Mm-hmm.
which Shaolin Kung Fu, which is Buddha Kung Fu,
Mm-hmm.
which according to his research was started with a Taoist priest.
Interesting. Okay.
James San Fu.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, I need to write an essay and do some research, which I'm persisting to do. Because I want whatever I do, whatever I write, I want it to come from within.
Okay. Yeah.
Readings, from records, and also I don't understand Chinese.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
I cannot read Chinese. He can.
Right.
But
Can you get somebody to translate for you, or?
Well, these are like old tests, like old,
Yeah.
like reading in a different kind of. But I don't know. You are making so much sense. And I'm planning a trip actually, and I want to go to India.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
I've been in India twice already.
Okay.
I want to go back probably first month of the year, maybe January.
Okay.
To the Himalayas, and probably I will get some answers also.
Yeah, I kind of get the sense that this is all setting you up for your higher mission, okay? Because your guides are saying just to go ahead and trust the um, in the process. Trust in the process. Don't resist it, okay? Just kind of trust it. Uh, and I think everything will fall into place. I do see that. I did also see past lives in India, by the way, so that's why you keep getting drawn there. But you're very connected, even though you're Arcturian. You're very connected to the Vega, Sirian. You've had past lives in these places, so you're very connected to cultures that are heavily influenced by Vega, Sirius, and Andromeda. Okay, so because those are your connections outside of Arcturus. Okay, so yeah. Um, uh, so the other thing I'm seeing too is let's try to look in your records here. I do see past lives with a lot of fighting. I do see a past life as a samurai in Japan. I see past lives. You were like some sort of special forces with the Chinese army. I don't know. It's just, that's what they're telling me. I don't know what that means, but it was. I think part of what you were doing was you're trying to experience the Earth experience, and how terrible war can be. Okay, you already know how terrible war could be from Orion, but you had to experience the human version of that, or the Earth human version of that. Uh, so part of, I think, your mission is not to promote war or fighting, but to promote people becoming more empowered, feeling more in control, of their destinies. Okay, and so you came here to represent the fifth dimensional masculine energy. Okay, which is actually to be protectors. Okay, so it's to be you know men that they take care of others, they protect others, they make sure everybody stays safe. So that's the energy that you're coming in with. not this aggressive, oh, we want to conquer everything kind of energy, because that's not serving anybody any good. That's toxic masculinity. We're no longer about that. But it's more this new masculinity of, hey, we can be strong, we can be powerful, but we can also be sensitive, we can also be compassionate, you know. So that's the energy that you're coming in with, and so you're kind of becoming like a prototype for that fifth dimensional masculine energy, okay, that where there's more control, where there's more honor, where there's more ethical standpoint, rather than, oh, I can do this because I'm a man, you know, I can do whatever because I can treat people terribly because I'm a man, you know. That's old world energy. We're no longer about that, you know. So, and you know this firsthand. In many lifetimes, you've had, I would say, lifetimes where I'm just amazed by your journey, because you've had lifetimes where you were teaching others to do this in other star systems. It's beautiful. And you've always called on the dragons. The dragons were always like they were like your family away from your family, you know. So you're definitely connected with the Arcturians. You're always going to be connected with the Arcturians, but the dragons are also like your guides and teachers and mentors. And you had connections with dragons in ancient China. You had connections with dragons in Korea and in India. I mean, it was just like all over the planet. In Tibet, I do see a past life in Tibet. So that you're connected with the Buddhist. You have a very deep connection with Buddhist religion. Okay, in addition to Hinduism. So you're definitely a lot more aligned with the Eastern philosophies. Yeah. Um,
Everything makes sense. Everything.
okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that this is resonating.
Actually, there's a comment.
Sure. Yeah. Please share.
Guillermo, my second angel, you know what it means?
Yeah. Angel. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Like a messenger.
Yeah.
Guillermo comes from the German Wilhelm.
Yeah.
Which is protection,
like a helmet. A helmet.
Like a helmet.
Yeah. Helmet. Yeah.
But that's I have the name.
Yeah. No, you're the angel. You're the angel of protection.
Yeah, the messenger protection.
You're the angel of protection. Yeah, totally.
I need to honor, and I've been trying to honor that.
No, you are. I just don't see you staying in Puerto Rico. I think you're going to be traveling a lot. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah.
I've been having so much trouble finding. I want to build a house, a home.
Yeah.
It's been almost impossible. Something happens every time.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I think it's part of the. I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah, I kind of get that. You're going to be traveling for a while, so that's why the home thing hasn't manifested. Some of that might be some lack and struggle from your Earth ancestry, so, you know, with your current family, which we'll work on that with the Akashic clearing. But so I do see some ancestral connections there. I too had to work through lack and struggle program, and I was like you, nothing would ever work out. I was just like one failure after another after another. It was so frustrating. And then when I finally addressed the ancestral issues around that, it was like the clouds parted and money was raining on me. I mean, it was just like crazy. I mean, it was like, wow. But it took me, I think, working through my own ancestral issues around lack and struggle, because my family were immigrants. You know, they came from Italy. You know, so they struggled. I think in your case, you probably came from parents that also struggled. Puerto Rico went through their struggles. Okay, you know, your ancestors. Um, there was probably a lot of influence from the West Indies and a lot of influence from the slave trade, from, coming through the Caribbean and the West Indies, so there's some of those old ancestral struggles that we'll look at when we do the Akashic clearing. We'll clear all that out for you. And I think things are going to go a lot easier for you. But what I'm picking up is you're not supposed to stay in Puerto Rico. You're not supposed to stay there. You're being called on a much bigger mission, and you're going to be traveling. Probably, definitely to India, because you mentioned that. But I also think you're going to be traveling back to the Far East. I don't know. There's some sort of big training you're going to do there. So.
Yeah, I think my teacher lives in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And I went and I traveled there for the last lockdowns.
Yeah.
I was traveling there every year for the previous 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Sometimes twice.
Oh wow.
And I feel at home when I'm in Malaysia.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm home.
Yeah. No, I can see why. Malaysia was, I think, parts of Malaysia, parts of Australia. There's certain island countries that are remnants of Lemuria, and so they feel like home when you're there. Okay. I know when I was in the military and I was stationed in Hawaii, I felt like I died and went to heaven. I thought oh my God, I came home. I came home because I too have a Lemurian past life. I feel very aligned with Lemuria. Whenever I'm in Asia, I feel more at home there than I do in Europe. And Europe is my ancestral home, but my soul home feels more like Asia, because I've had past lives in Asia too. So that seems to be an Arcturian thing. I think our genetics, we have a lot of genetics in Southeast Asia, but I think you're about to embark on your mission, and I think it's gonna, once I think you clear out all the blocks that are holding you back right now, which I don't think there's a lot of it, but it's just some key energy blocks that are kind of holding you back a little bit. You're going to take off like a rocket. I think you're going to be traveling so much and doing so many different things that, and you're going to bring all these concepts to the United States, is what I'm seeing. That I think eventually, I think you will settle in the United States. I don't know where. I'm kind of thinking Florida, but I don't know. I I I don't know. I think it could be anywhere, honestly. I'm almost thinking, rather than Florida, you might even be going more towards the West Coast, but because it's more in alignment with Lemurian energy. But I just see you taking off like a rocket, and you're going to become kind of the model for what the new fifth dimensional masculine man is going to look like. Okay, so and so you're going to be working with a lot of men, but also with some women. Okay, so initially it's going to be mostly men because they're going to be drawn to this sort of thing, but I do think you'll be working with women as people start becoming more and more integrated. So I do see that. Your mission is very unique, but it's a beautiful mission. I think. I think you have that Arcturian tendency, and I can speak to this because I'm an Arcturian starseed too. We get a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like sometimes we think like, oh my gosh, why are you calling me to be this great leader? I don't deserve it. I don't know why it's me. It's kind of part of our Arcturian humility. Okay. But we are great beings. We Arcturian starseeds. We come here to work to do big missions. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a big mission. Okay. We don't come here to play small. Okay. So when our guides tell us, hey, you got to go do this. We're like questioning it. Our guides are going to kick us in the butt until we do it. Okay, um, so just be prepared. But I don't know. I have a feeling you're going to do really well. Anything else? We have a few minutes left. Is there anything else you want to know more about, or anything that I have not covered?
What happened? Because I think that what happened in Atlantis, it has to do with that I was there trying to do the same, like trying to bring this
spirituality. Oh yeah, I would say Atlantis totally has a big effect on you today. Because what I see, I think you were trying to do the same thing in Atlantis, but the Atlanteans, unlike the Lemurians, were resisting it. They weren't, and so there is a little bit of a conflict program. Let me speak to that. So there's a conflict program between, wow, I really want to share this, but I don't know if people are ready for it. Okay. So there's a little bit of a fear or a conflict program around. I don't know if I want to share this information. This is important information. This is going to be transformative or transformational for a lot of people, but I don't know if people are going to be ready for it, because they weren't in Atlantis. Okay. And I don't think you were killed or anything in Atlantis, but what I do get is that you were heavily criticized, you were shamed, they made you feel like you were an idiot, so there's some resistance around that, or some healing that's needed around that. Okay. As far as your guides, I would say the majority of your guides are the Arcturian collective. So those are the beings that you want to connect with. As you're moving towards your mission, they're going to be extremely supportive to you on your mission. I'm trying to see if there's anything. You also are connected with the angelic realm. I would say particularly the Archangel Michael angel group. Okay. Because you are here to be a guide and a teacher, but also a protector. Okay. So just like your name. Your parents, they named you very well. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they were divinely guided to give you that name, but they did name you very well. So, uh, and I love the year of the dragon thing. I think that's so appropriate for you. You're here to be a leader. Okay, so you're not here to play small. You're here to play very big. Yeah. So your mission's just beginning. If there's not anything else, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. I feel like we've did a lot of work in a short amount of time, but we're going to do more work together, hopefully. But many blessings to you, Angel. You're on a beautiful mission. You're welcome. I'm going to do a closing prayer. I would like to thank the Master's teachers.